Daniel, a 16 years old photographer, especially insect photographer. This topic started with my childhood. I was a special kid, not in terms of looks or intelligence, but in terms of hobbies and interests. While all the kids of my age were playing video games, I was having close contact with animals or with nature. Well, why do I like animals so much? When I was a kid, a cricket in my house, and when I look at it, I would ask, why does it make sound, and why can it jump so far? And it was these little important science questions lead me to the world of exploring nature. And after that, I will go to different places and countries to investigate and explore different animal species. And of course, during the process, I will certainly pay attention to the relationship between human and nature. After I entered high school, I started to follow my teacher to have a deeper research in insects. I have achieved some results, published some papers, and even record some new species for China. By the way, I'm very grateful to my family who supported me along the way. Yeah, and that's something that I have been doing for the last 6 or 7 years. Yeah, and during the process of exploring nature and animals, I have to go to different places, all over China or the whole world, in order to discover different animals in different time and space. And during the process, I just pay attention to the relationship between human and society, and also the nature. So that's why I'm addressing my topic today, the unbreakable bond, human and planet Earth. As far as I can remember, the first time I went out to explore animals was when I was in the 2nd grade. Me and my dad went to Guangxi with a scientific exploration team to record the local biodiversity. Science field research is interesting, but it is actually very arduous as well. We have to go to the villages in the mountains with no signals and no modern equipment in order to avoid the interference of human distraction. No restaurants, no hotels, only local residency. We slept on a metal board. We slept on a metal board with only a thin layer of bedsheets on the top. And the next day, we heard from other families that someone had stepped on a poisonous beetle and a big blister grew on his tooth. And someone had a red rash on his neck because a poisonous moth got into his clothes. The process was painful, but that's how you can appreciate the tenacity and charm of life. Well, in the process, we set up a light trap, which is shown in the picture. The light trap means to set up a very bright light in the darkness and a white fabric near it, then wait for the insects to come to you. Many very small and rare species will come due to phototropism, which means they are attracted by the light. In the meanwhile, we will also do night safari. Of course, this safari doesn't mean the website browser you use, but it means investigation and exploration. Well, the animals at night seems to be a different world. I remember that day we were lucky. We were searching for a national grade 2 protected gecko, and the local ranger said there was a great chance of not seeing it. He had only seen it 19 times on the last 7 years, but that one day, we saw 11. After that, I have always believed that there's destiny with me and animals, and that was indeed confirmed, as I can always find animal species and few animal species that others cannot. Yeah, and that's some species I took in Guangxi when I'm doing night safari. Okay. And then in the summer of 2017, I went to BHIS mountain with elevation of 4,200. Yeah. And weighs 4,200 meters with my mom and my brother. There are no road because our campus is in the very deep of the mountain, so no cars would allow to go to the campus. So we have to drove the car to a nearby mountain and let the mules, which is the offspring of donkeys and horse, to carry our luggage and to walk to the campus. And our 4-hour walking journey begins. We walked across snowy mountains, cliffs, forests, and bushes with opening flowers everywhere. And eventually we arrived. The so-called campus was just actually a few little cabins. And during the day, we followed the forest ranger to search for the existence of Yunnan golden monkey, as shown in the picture. And that monkey was a primates that live in the highest altitude in the world. And it is also have the closest appearance of humans since it has a red lips, which is the only trait that looks like human. Yeah, and the monkey did not originally live in such a high altitude, which is elevation of 4,200 meters. That's so high. Their original habitat is just like 370 meters, but humans continued and repeated to encroach their habitat and using their home. So it forced them to go to higher and colder elevation with few and poor natural resources, which increased their survival difficulties. Well, as shown in the middle of the picture, this is the monkey that we're finding, and all of them are called golden monkey. But you may ask, like, among the 5 pictures, why only one have a golden fur? Well, actually, in fact, all of the 5 golden haired monkey species, only one have golden hair. That's because they all have one other special trait, one common trait, that is, their nose are going upwards, like a pin. Yeah, and as you can see for the picture. But the first monkeys that have been discovered with this trait, the Sichuan golden monkey. And his fur is golden. So even though the next 4 species didn't have golden hair, they are also categorized into the column of golden monkey. Yeah. And of course, I'll continue to use my light trap to collect insects. But the species in this place is very tremendously different from the species in Guangxi in terms of size or colors and shapes. For example, this beetle is a stag beetle, and it is very different from other stag beetles because it has a very small upper jaws and a very bright shed. It looks like an alien species, but we didn't pay much attention at that time. It wasn't many years later, after I was reading an article, and I realized that this species was a new and unknown species. And that's become the biggest regret on my journey of investigating nature. And after talking about the high and cold altitude place, I'm going to talk about another extreme, which is desert. I took this picture at 9:50 p.m. at night, and it is very interesting because in that place, it gets dark at 10 p.m. and it gets bright at 5 a.m. So it is very demanding for the nocturnal animals to minimize the time they need to forage food and to maximize their working efficiency in order to work as many as they can in the limited of time. And during the night safari, the first name in my target list is called Holy Beetle. Yeah, and this name is very well created by Egyptians because they connect this beetle to their sun god. But in China, the name of this beetle is not so good. It is called Dawn beetle. D-U-N-G, not D-U-N-G. Yeah, and this beetle, why is it important and interesting? Because it is well known by its special ability to make dung balls and roll the dung balls. And it is also interesting because what it eats is very special. Yeah. And I took these pictures. It's just a precious memory in my life. After searching several hours in the middle of the desert. We finally found a fresh cow, how can I say it? Dog, yeah. And the feces of this cow is very fresh, and luckily there's a beetle on the top. This beetle is so brave that we gathered around and surround this beetle, but he didn't escape. He just began to dig this feces, and first he went to the top. He upgraded the top layer because he wants the most fresh and the most healthy part in this picture. And he will use his body as the radius and to measure the size of the dumbbells he wants to make. And then he will use his body to draw a circle on the top, and then he will just dig the trace of the circle deeper and deeper until it becomes a hemisphere. But he didn't stop. Remember, the time is limited and the time is precious. So he continues to dig until it becomes a sphere. But that sphere is not so round yet. He then used his forelimbs and find a pivot point. Then use all of his force to push the balls out of the feces. And then the familiar part comes, which is the beetle uses its last 2 feet to roll the balls, and in order to make it get more and more round. Oh, by the way, this beetle is not eating the poop or the dung, actually, but the undigested parts in it. So, as we watch it going further and further in the darkness, we can only wish it not to be eaten by the predator or not to be robbed by other dog beetles. Yeah. And why does this little beetles to be related and so important to human society? First of all, this dung beetle is just a cleaner of the nature. Without it, they will just be filth. They will just be full of filth, and people will have to live in an environment full of feces. And for another, as you watch the picture, the shell of that beetle is actually very clean almost all the time, and it will not stick to anything when it comes to the feces. And that's why, so scientists investigate this science question for many years, and then they realized that the structure of the shell of this beetle is very interesting. And when they find this investigation, they use it into something that people can daily use. For example, they use this special ability to create tools called non-sticking pans, which is usually used in the kitchen to make food. Yeah. And there are also many amazing and strange creatures in the desert, as shown in the PPT. And me and my family went to many places. For example, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, and Japan, to record different animal species. We not only encounter amazing animal species, but we also see the subtle relationship between human and nature. But not every time I can always record the species I want to document. For example, last year I went to Qiuyao, and when I arrived at my destination, I found out that the rainforest was eliminated, was razed, and what replaced it is full of coffee trees. Yeah, and actually for non-mammals, the biggest threat for animals is not the hunting or the hunters, but the habitat destruction. Yeah, especially for some species that lives in a very narrow distribution, a small valley may mean everything to him. So you may only see a small mountain as destroyed, but it may also mean many species goes to extinction. Yeah. And the harmony between nature and animals cannot be addressed, and it is not an easy question to solve all the time. To take a famous incident of green peacock, for example. Green peacock is the original and the only one species, green peacock species living in China. Unlike the blue peacock you see in the zoos, there are only roughly 200 green peacock species in China, and most of them stay in Yunnan, Red River. But in 2017, a company on the local restaurants want to cooperate with a company that do electronic, and they want to build a hydroelectronic power station, but that will require to fulfill and flood the whole entire valley, which is devastating for the habitat of green peacock. And luckily, there's a charity organization called China stepped in, and after 5 years of litigation, they won the case. The green peacock station, the green peacock keep the habitat, and the station stopped constructing. Yeah, and as a high student, the only thing I can do is to promote the concept of protecting animals and protecting the environment. For example, I have a club, and their club I teach them, and I lead them to go out to the nature and school to find different kind of animal species, especially find the biodiversity in our school. And by doing that, I think I can at least eliminate some of their stereotypes and fear towards animals, and also make them have a basic awareness of protecting the environment and the nature. So, nature is very important and actually very interesting, but it needs collaboration between human and nature. The diversity and beauty of nature is not only the meticulous cooperation of different animal species, but also how humans interact and how humans coexist with nature and with its planet Earth. If the biodiversity and the food chain and ecology ecosystems collapse, then human society and human civilization will also no longer exist. So I wish my topic today can bring you some thinking and arouse your curiosity towards animals, but most importantly, to inject the awareness of protecting the environment and protecting animals. Thank you.